Hey there, my name is Heather Feather. I am the owner of Rare Bird Medicine. Today's topic is out of sight, out of mind. Farewell, Felicia. We can give ourselves dopamine hits in the brain. Dopamine is the neurotransmitter that causes us to feel good. And we can give ourselves a dopamine hit by thinking on things that we like, thinking on things that bring us pleasure to consider and to have stew in the brain. And there are times when that serves. There are times when things are coming together in a way in which whatever it is we're stewing on is part of the actual world we're living in and the reality that we're walking in. And there are times when we can get these dopamine hits from things that don't have as much relevance. A great example of this would be social media. We can check our social media incessantly because our brain knows that it wants dopamine. So it can check to be like, did I get any likes? Did I get any responses? Oh, look, I got one. There's that dopamine hit. Boom. It's like I'm putting up my attention on something. I like this. Did they like it? They like it. Ooh, now my brain likes it, right? So there are ways in which I work to, and granted, there's nothing that I do 100% of the time. I work more and more throughout my life to kind of like bring things together to be the way that I walk in the world. And some of those things take decades to develop. And I get, like most two-leggeds, a little better and better each year of my life, each year that I practice. An example for me would be sugar. I often say I'm like a hummingbird. I could literally eat a gallon of ice cream every night of my life. I love sugar. Love it. I love a pastry. Give me pastries, I love pastry with a latte. That's the jam on my biscuits. And I don't allow myself to have pastries typically because I'm gluten intolerant and I don't want to have a lot of sugar. I don't typically put sugar in my latte, or honey is what I would typically put, but I don't usually put it just because I want to minimize the amount of sugar intake that I have. There's a book called Sugar Blues that my aunt mentioned to me at a young age. And she was talking about how sugar is an immunosuppressant, it's a depressant, it can cause an inflammatory response in the body. And we already can get an inflammatory response in the body due to the glyphosate that's already present in our air and our water. Glyphosate would be the pesticides that are sprayed on plants that are deadly to insects. And if it's deadly to life, it's deadly to life. And so I work to minimize those things that are going to cause an inflammatory response in the system, minimize those things that are going to cause a depressive response. A lot of sugar can cause depression. And so I'm the steward of my joy, and I love joy. And I am forever having like a very primary aim in my life. One of my top 5 aims is to always be moving towards joy, to always be finding joy, even in the simplest of pleasures. And also, I don't want to suppress my immune system. I want my immune system to be strengthened. So I love sugar. I could eat it all day. And I don't keep it in my house typically. I have some in my house right now. It's my friend and roommate's birthday today. And he's a vegan. And so last night I got him some vegan ice cream in case he wanted a treat right before his birthday hits. So there's some sugar here for him. And I typically cannot have sugar in the house like that because I would eat all of the sugar I just bought. Like, I know it's for him, so I'm not going to eat it. That's his treat. It's my friend, But I don't keep it in there for me because stuff like that, I'll eat all of it in one night. I love sugar, Doesn't mean I'm never going to have cake. Doesn't mean I'm never going to have ice cream. Doesn't mean I'm never going to have a pastry. I do those things. I just do them nominally throughout the year. And it really is a real treat when I have it because it's typically out of my sights and therefore out of my mind. When I get to have it, I'm like, ooh, cookie. I get like super excited. My inner child is like, oh my God, she's going to let me have a cookie, And so I try to keep other sweet treats, trail mix fruit, things like that. I've been talking about that lately. I keep things that are sweet. So when I have a sweet tooth, which is all the time, I can get up and I can have one of those other things that are actually nutrient dense and have fructose instead of sugar and process in the body in a different way and can give me energy and have fiber with them and things like that. So one of the ways we can work with out of sight, out of mind is being attentive on a physical level, on a mental level, on a brain biochemistry level. What am I putting within my sights that I have access to? I have access to sugar, and Heather's got to get in the car and go to get it if she wants it, usually, you know what I mean? And I'm typically not going to do that because I'd rather be home than be like in a grocery store full of people looking for my sugar, And so I know that my nature is I'm more inclined to stay home and eat the fruit that I have here. There's another way that we can practice out of sight, out of mind. And I've been practicing it for the past several weeks. There's a person that's been of great interest to me since the moment I laid eyes on this person. And the more I learn about them, unfortunately, the more interesting they become. It's like, really? You do that? Really? They're just, it's one of these humans. It's just attractive inside and out. And it's like, stop being so attractive, please. Please, I'm going to have to gouge my own eyes out. But I had the misfortune of learning a couple months ago that this person became single. And it put this wild idea in my mind of like, what if we could come together? And I ultimately came to a conclusion that this person is not interested in me. And they are at a place that I frequent. And so I have taken that place and put it out of my sight and therefore out of my mind because I can sense that there's not a mutual interest, and I don't need to stoke my own fires. I don't need to stir a pot for a dish I'm not going to eat, if you will. And so I've taken some weeks to settle into my celibacy practice, settle into unlocking my kundalini so my sexual energy isn't at an all-time high. And I've gotten to a place where I feel like, okay, I can go back to the space and I'm good with everything. I respect and appreciate that the feeling isn't mutual, and I respect and appreciate that this isn't something that's going to come into being. However, it was really important for me to take some time to have that two-legged be out of my sights so that I could clear them out of my mind, because they're a person that I think of. And some of our interactions have caused me to turn towards information that's causing me to think of them. And it's like, okay, this is not helping. This is not helping everybody. And so I've done this before. I had an ex many years ago, over a decade ago, and he worked at a certain store that I frequented, and it was a place that my sister also worked. And I recognized after we split up that I was like going to this place more because I recognize, I want to see him, and I don't need to see him because we're not going to be together. And again, this is stoking a fire that I don't want to be warmed by. This is stirring a pot that's a dish I'm not going to eat. And so I forced myself, and it was difficult, but I do this often. It's like I force myself, like, you're not allowed to go there again, unless Suzanne has an emergency, unless your sister urgently needs you. You're not allowed to go there anymore because it is not serving the direction that you're headed. And I like to really support the direction that I'm headed. So I think this can be true too, as a general rule, when it comes to friendships or family members, or, Richard Bach says the bonds of family are often not one of blood. And so like we may have people in our lives that we're giving a lot of our attention, and we have them in our sights and we have them in our mind. Do the people in your life feed your mind? Are they feeding your mind? Are they taking, and you're giving? Now that's imbalanced. Is that what you want? I mean, if that's what you want, I celebrate it for you. May you have what you seek. I always want for other two-leggeds what they seek. Whatever you seek, may you have it in spades. May you have it in droves. May you be blessed. May you be blessed. There's no right or wrong choice to me. It's a neutral hologram. And I'm always looking at, what do I have my sights on? And does it serve me to have my sights on whatever they're on? Am I causing unnecessary frustration in myself? Yes. Sometimes I'm doing that. Let's wrap it up, Heather. There's another way. I tend to look at the inverse of things. They say don't bite the hand that feeds you. I've taken that topic, and throughout my life, I've really worked to serve the hand that feeds me. Any job I've had, I've always done some level of volunteer work. I've created recycling programs from multiple jobs that I've had. I used to work for a college textbook place, and they weren't recycling the textbooks that were not being utilized. So I created one there. I did it for the pie shop I was at when I worked at a gourmet pie shop. I always find some way to serve, and ideally to serve the globe or to serve on a larger scale when I'm serving. And if I'm not able to do that, I often will continue to work when I'm clocked out because I like to serve the hand that feeds me. In that same vein, we can consider out of sight, out of mind, and flip it to the other side of its coin and recognize insight in mind. inside and in mind. And so what I'm working to do right now, I'm well blessed to have a friend and roommate that's on a similar path as I am. And he's also, from what I can experience thus far, as equally introverted. He tends to be in his room all day. I tend to be in my room working from home. And at the end of the day, he reads in his room, I read in my room. And it's really nice. I have a lot of space to take things into my sight that I want to have go into my mind. And it's been a grace. I used to always read like 7 to 8 books every night. I'd flip between, it's like, okay, that's getting too heavy. Let me pick this lighter topic or different topic that's heavy on a different subject that interests me. And I kind of stopped reading. I got so into offering and teaching all the things I've filled my cup up with, but I've gotten to a place where I've done pretty good in the past decade at emptying my cup. And so I'm really looking at what am I putting into my sights and what am I putting into my mind. I'm being a lot more attentive. One of the things I do in doing data entry for 9 to 13 hours a day from home is that I often watch television programming. May we always remember that it's television programming and that we use a remote control, remotely being controlled with your programming. Heather, kill your TV. But I want to be mindful. Like I said, psychology really interests me. I've said in these videos many times, I'm very curious about psychology. I'm very curious about what makes a serial killer, and I can watch ad nauseum, like some of the darkest aspects of humanity just because I find it quite curious. I'm like, what was their childhood? Why are they, what causes that? A lot of serial killers have had brain injuries, I've learned. And I don't know that necessarily serves feeding that into my sights all the time, right? And so I've been studying the Kabbalah. I have been looking at the attachment styles. I ultimately plan to just have YouTube available on my TV because through YouTube, I can learn to build a cob house. I can learn to play guitar. Those are things that I think merit putting into my sights and putting into my mind because they're things I want to do. I want to learn to play the guitar. I want to learn to build a cob house. Should I, have students that want to come to the college and live on the land, I want to be able to support them in creating a little cob place to live until they get settled in whatever way they want to be settled. And so there are certain things I'm wanting to review, I'm wanting to know, I'm wanting to understand before I get into this piece and retire in 10 months or whatever. I want to really consider what is it that I need to know before I go buy this big plot of land and buy this home and settle and finally build roots for this wild gypsy woman that I be. Where I build these roots for me, So what are you putting into your sights? What media do you put into your mind? Is your social media feed super negative? Is that what you want it to be? Maybe it's time to look at positive things. I constantly watch things about animals. I love animals. I love them. I love all creatures. And I love anything about animals. And I've noticed what the social media platform will do is it'll be like, maybe if you like that, you'll like this. And so they started showing me animals that are really sick or unwanted or thrown away that eventually be healed and healthy and get a home. And home is an important word to me. And I love the idea of animals having a home. But I started watching these and realizing I don't want to constantly feed my attention sickened animals because I want to feed the web of creation and the web of attention and mind. I want to feed the hologram and the paradigm healthy animal, right? And so I've had to stop clicking on those because I don't want to put that in my sights. I don't want to put it in my mind, and I don't want to feed the web that in the paradigm. What is it that is holding your attention physically, mentally, emotionally, spiritually, relationally? Romantic relationships, friendships, places that you're going. Is there any place or space that you're going, any people that you're being with, any media, attention, knowledge, information that you're feeding your precious golden mind that really doesn't serve you anymore in the paradigm? Today is Second Friday. It's when most people end their resolutions, right? So is there any kind of bargaining you're doing, any kind of media you're watching that's like, oh, you can go ahead and quit your New Year's resolution? Or are you feeding things to strengthen that? Like, okay, I said I'm going to be this. I'm focused on unlocking Kundalini because I said I'm going to be celibate, right? And so I'm being celibate in all regards. And so are you giving your mind and your attention that which serves and that which really leads you to the target at which you aim? You can always subscribe to Rare Bird Medicine on YouTube, like and comment there. I always love your thoughts. I'm Moon.